before you watch the real video, which is going to follow straight after this session, there's something I forgot to say, and I really didn't want to go and record the whole video again, so I'm going to squish it in here at the start. You may have been receiving SMS notifications this week from the school around student attendance. So traditionally what would happen is if a student was away, we're required to follow up, and on some days that might take Debbie and Gail and Lisa in the office half a day just phoning parents, making notes, sending that off to the teacher. The thing we're trying at the moment hopefully will be a bit more efficient. So at 10 o'clock each day, the computer system will automatically generate a whole series of SMS notifications that will go out to parents of students who are absent so we can try to explain those absences. They would arrive on your phone and would look like it comes from a random phone number, and it's possible that the phone number it comes from would be different each day, and that's just the way that the service works. You could have a look at that, you could respond to it to explain the absence, and it means back here at a school level that the office just have to process those responses all in one hit, and we think it could save several hours every day, make life easier for the community and for you. By responding to that message, it means you don't have to write a note to us, and it means that you won't receive an automatic notification from me, because generally what would happen is at the end of the week, the computer generates a whole series of letters that go out in Australia Post and would arrive at your house to be filled in. So if you can look out for those messages and please work with us on it, it will make life a lot simpler. But if you hold on, the real video will follow. Good morning, everybody. Today is the 30th of October, so it's Friday of week 3, and we've just finished up sport here at school. We've taken the opportunity of moving sport for our students into the morning session rather than the traditional middle session. So normally what would happen is sport and PWSA would align, but without a PWSA system this term, we're able to move sport into the start of the day, thereby avoiding all those hot days that are likely to come in the next few weeks. So today was great, nice and mild weather, but who knows, it could in fact be 40 degrees next week, but the kids won't have to be out there during the peak of the day. The other thing we've been able to do is to go back to a more traditional morning play routine. So when we returned from remote learning, we had to be very conscious of how we kept cohorts of students apart and didn't let them mix too much. And one of our ways of achieving that was to go straight to the classroom in the morning. And that worked well. It was also pretty good during winter when it was very, very cold. However, the weather is now much milder, and with restrictions or an easing of restrictions, it's time to send the kids back into the yard in the morning. The kids seem very happy for that, and I don't see why we can't sustain that throughout term 4 and in fact into term 1, regardless of what happens with parents on site and non-essential visitors. So that's been a good thing for the kids, and a bit of social time really does help them. As always, kids can't be here for 8:25, but as soon as that bell goes at 8:25, we're trying to get them out the back and have a bit of fun before the school day starts. Now, this week, we had planned to have a visit from Russ the Bus. Now, Russ the Bus is kind of a bus, as it sounds like, and it's full of books and would come to school along with an author. And what would happen is the author would read a story to us, and up on the screen you can see Russ the Bus. It's painted up in a fairly fancy way. The author would read a story, and there'd be a series of workshops about how to be an author, how illustrations work, etc. Russ the Bus couldn't come. So what we did instead is we had a Zoom hookup with an author, and the author's name was Renee Tremel. And Renee Tremel taught us about how we could create some simple pictures, use expressions on faces to aid the meaning of the story. And we sort of slowly built together an understanding of the role of being an author. And you can see on the screen at the moment, here's a series of pictures that have been published on Seesaw, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And this is by the students in Miss Henning's class. So this particular student's parent would have seen these pictures at home in real time as they were done. Now, one really cool part of Russ the Bus and this process is that you get to choose, or each student gets to choose their very own book to take home. And normally you would choose it out of the bus, and then you would take it home with you and would be there on the actual day. Well, unfortunately, without the bus being here, we had to have a new system. So the students have chosen from a list. The books will arrive at school wrapped in the next few weeks, and the kids can take them home completely free of charge. So not only do they get to go to the workshop online, and this is all the students in stages 2 and 3, they also then get to have their very own book to keep, which we're really pleased about. The other thing that we've been working on fairly hard this week has been kindergarten orientation. So a lot of parents are asking me at the moment, what's happening with the kinder kids for next year? We know there's a whole range of restrictions on exactly what can happen. So we have, broadly speaking, two groups of kids that will be transitioning to kindergarten next year. There will be the kids who come from our current preschool, and a note went out to them, as you can see on the screen here, and I'll leave it up here long enough that you can pause it if you'd like to. And they will have a series of visits which are fairly easy for us to manage. We'll just take them from class over to kindergarten and off they go. On the right side of the screen, you can see some text here which talks about the students that will be new to our school. They will come for a series of 4 visits. You can see them up on the screen there, 9:45 through 10:45 on Tuesdays, the 3rd, 10th, 17th and 24th of November. What makes this series of visits much different is that the parents can't come along because of restrictions of adults on the school site. So as it says in the note, those parents will come down, I will meet you, we will separate the parents and ask the parents to go off, have a cup of coffee or go for a walk around Lethbridge Park or something for an hour, and Miss Hyde will look after the students, and then we will reunite you all at the end. Now, one of the sticking points we have here is, of course, we can only invite students along where we have an enrolment form. And if there's no enrolment form, number one, we don't know about the students, but they actually can't be on the school site. It's one of those parts of both the enrolment policy, but also the COVID restrictions. Now, I have enrolment forms at the gate and I'm handing them out furiously. And I said in my last video how important it was for us to have those forms because it impacts staffing and finances and classrooms and furniture and all sorts of sort of functional stuff. But it also impacts this orientation. So a form can be found at the front gate via me, no problems at all. The other thing you can do is you can download it by simply doing Google for New South Wales Department of Education enrolment form. Or if you'd like to be one of the first people to explore the new enrolment system, we are a trial school. And if you have a look on the website for Lethbridge Park Public School, go to our website. If you scroll right down the bottom as I'm doing now, you'll see there's a tab that says enrolment. And by clicking on that tab, it takes you through to an online enrolment system. And you can just simply apply for online enrolment here. By clicking on that, it takes you through. You can choose the year that you're enrolling for, enter your address in, and if you enter in a local address, it will direct you through to our school. So I'm actually typing in the address of the school now. We'll see how that goes. So if that's our address and it searches, it says that we are within the local area. If we type an address that's outside the local area, the website will obviously direct people back to their local schools. So there are those ways to enrol. Any of them is fine for us, but what is important is that we get the forms through really as quickly as we can. Now, earlier on, we had a bit of a talk about Seesaw. Now, parents should have the details of Seesaw. It's gone home several times. It provides an opportunity to have a link with what's happening at school in real time and to have that ability to have a real-time dialogue with the classroom teacher. So on the screen now, you can just see this little preview from the App Store, but there is an app available for Android via the Play Store as well. So they work in both the same way. And you can see we've got the advertisement just down the bottom here, which talks about how we can connect to each other. So I would really encourage everybody to download that app, make a connection with our school via that. And it's a really good way to keep in contact with what's going on here at school. Preschool parents, of course, have become very proficient using the Story Park app, which is absolutely fine as well. But obviously, as the kids get older, they transition over to Seesaw, and that would be a really great thing if we can focus on that and make that link with our community. Whilst talking about preschool, as everyone knows, there's a different drop-off and pick-up procedure. There's also a whole different set of regulations around how preschools are run. They're different to a normal school. And the preschool operates here from 8:55 through to 2:55. And we're not able to have kids here outside those times. It's just how it is. So the parents have to wait outside with me, and then I sort of let them through the gate, trying to separate everybody so we're not having too much congestion. But there's very little point in arriving early because the preschool isn't open and we can't have adults on the site. So it means everyone ends up waiting up the road. That's we understand that and we can manage that. We stand out and have a bit of a chat, which is fine. The other problem, though, is in the afternoon. Coming early has become a bit more common, and I really have to ask people to refrain from doing that. We want the students to be here for as long as possible. That's the whole point of the preschool, is to engage in the program for the entire day. Having parents arrive not only interrupts that learning, but we're finding it increasingly difficult to manage the paperwork requirements of COVID and non-essential visitors with those parents outside those timeframes, and to the extent that it's starting to interfere with other classes, because I'm having to have teachers sort of away from the classes to help with managing those parents. So if you can help us out, the best way to pick your student up is to arrive, if this is preschool we're talking about, of course, at 2:45. Miss Karen will meet you at the Rose Garden. That way we can do all of the COVID requirements in one hit and get people up, get the kids away in an efficient way. That would be most helpful. The other thing that's going on here at school at the moment is the teachers are preparing for our term for oral reading and public speaking competitions. And in a normal year, we would really be encouraging parents to come along and to watch the students in the hall. And what happens is the students start with a classroom competition, and then we end up with grand finalists, and we end up with having sort of a public speaking competition that operates publicly, of course. But this year that can't happen, so we're going to be recording those so parents can see what's happened here at school. We'll be distributing those as much as we do this video. The kids will be working on preparing their oral speaking and the public speaking written components in class. We're talking about the best way to deliver those to help make the kids as fluent as possible. But it's quite likely that some of this will end up coming home as homework. And it shouldn't be too onerous on families, but if you can support us by giving the kids the time to practice, that would be fantastic, because we really couldn't be providing enough time for every student in the classroom environment. We just wouldn't have enough time in the day. So your support would be much appreciated. And I'll let you know in the upcoming weeks how we're going to be distributing the videos so you can see the grand finals. The other thing that we're planning at the moment, or Mr. Salakin is planning, is the first of our Gala Day sports events for the year. So as you know, they've all been cancelled. But there has been a slight restriction. We can have some Gala Day events in a COVID-safe way. And what by COVID safe, what we really do mean is the kids can go along, they can play the game, but they can't socialise with the students from other teams. They would need to then play the game, go back to the Beach Park group and sit with those kids until their next game. And it means that we can't have parents along. But we are fairly excited about at least being able to play a game. And the game that Mr. Sutton's planning around is a Gala Day for the Stage 3 girls to go and play football. It's scheduled for the 17th of November. And I'd expect some notes to be going home sometime next week once we've worked out the fine details. So a fair bit happening at school at the moment. We're looking forward to week 4. It looks like we've got a wet weekend and a wet week ahead, but the students don't seem to mind it anyway at all. So for everybody here at Lethbridge Park, I'd just like to say thanks for the first 3 weeks of the term. We look forward to catching up with you next week.